is Ben, and Ben is as leading the product management role as a director of product marketing at the LinkedIn. And then we, how did I know Ben? I asked one of my great friend Annie. I said, Annie, do you know anyone who's really a great person who knows LinkedIn really well? She said, oh, I definitely know a young man who's very talented, and he moved from UK to US. He was a really top. He was a top talent at Google, and she taught a lot of great things about Ben. I said, wow, I would love to meet Ben. And not only that, we really like to have the Be a Change Foundation kids, the high school students, in to meet you to get some guidance, as well as a lot of other working professionals. And because LinkedIn is so critical for our career, so I'd like to ask Ben to introduce him and to talk about his journey, and also to demonstrate his skill and his capability to tell the story about him, about his journey, about LinkedIn, and how we can use LinkedIn to help us all stand out and get better opportunities. And so after that, we'll do a little bit poll about who you are, what are the things that you like to get more seminars and more talks. And then we'll do the question and answer. Today, we're not going to do the breakout rooms like we usually do. So we'll just open this one up for everyone. And then after this, we have 3 more events next week. So next weekend. So without talking too much, so Ben, the floor is all yours. And we really, really appreciate that you come to talk to us. So you can share your slides or give us the talk. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for the kind introduction, and thanks everyone for having me today. Really excited to come talk to you guys. I will share a little bit about me and my background and where I've come from. I'll share a bit about the job that I do today at LinkedIn, and then talk about some tips about how to use the platform well, how to stand out, and how to use it for things like job seeking. Please feel free, if you can't hear anything, if you need me to repeat anything, to just ask me. And I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to assume that it's working, but let me know if there's any trouble seeing it, and we can try and fix that.
It's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So I will get started. So this is me on my LinkedIn profile. My name is BenWallace. I've been working at LinkedIn for just over 2 years. I work in product marketing, which is like a traditional marketing role, getting LinkedIn's customers and members to use our products more, helping explain the value of those products. But the product marketing team, it's specifically focused on how we work with engineering and our research and development team to raise people's awareness about how they can use LinkedIn in the US and around the world. And my team specifically, it's the international team, which is focused on consumer marketing. So I have a team in Germany, a team in the UK. We have someone in Japan. We have a small team in China, in Beijing, and a couple other people in other places who are all focused on helping people in those countries understand how to use LinkedIn better and to get more people to use it. As Elizabeth said, I'm from the UK originally. So this little map is where I started, in a town called Leicester, where I grew up. I studied at linguistics at the University of Oxford, and then after that, did an internship and got a full-time job at Google in London. And so I worked with Google in London for a couple of years on the UK marketing team, and then on the Android team, so Google's mobile team at the time. And then they were kind enough to help me relocate to the US, which is how I ended up in San Francisco. I've been here for about 9 years. I live with my partner in the city. And so I worked at Google for a couple more years after I'd moved. And then after that, left the big company and went to work at a very small startup with some friends who I'd known from other places. It was called Depict. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, but it was based in the digital art space. So the idea for the company was essentially, how can we connect people to digital artworks that they might want to own or subscribe to? After that, I moved to Uber, where I first started out working on the team that would eventually become Uber Eats, the food delivery business. It was a really fun team to be a part of. The business grew very, very rapidly, and now it's kind of worldwide in its scope. And then after a year and a half of working on the Uber Eats team, I moved on to Uber's core business, where I managed our product marketing team helping Uber's drivers. So essentially helping educate people on how they could make money on the platform, where it was available in different cities, and helping build on some of the reputational issues that Uber had with its drivers. After that, I took a little bit of time off to work out what I wanted to do next. I actually wasn't sure at that point whether I wanted to come back to product marketing or whether I wanted to try something different, but realized with that time off that I did really enjoy the work for some reasons that I'll get into, and had a recruiter from Amazon reach out to me about a role that was in the Bay Area. I was really excited because I really liked the company, and also excited because the company is based in Seattle, and so not a ton of marketing roles open up in the Bay Area. And so met with the team there, joined to work on a bit of a strange team at Amazon, actually, which was focused on augmented reality and augmented reality shopping. So essentially helping people who couldn't see furniture and large household items in their home to be able to visualize that in their home and then buy them. So my team was focused on how do we get people to use augmented reality to shop for furniture more. And then after a little bit of time at Amazon, had a recruiter from LinkedIn reach out to me on LinkedIn by sending me a LinkedIn message. At the time, I was pretty happy in my role at Amazon, but was really struck by the recruiter having done a lot of background on kind of who I was and finding a role that was a good fit. And then when I met successive people who worked at LinkedIn, just saw how passionate they were about helping people find work and helping connect people to opportunities. And after a few weeks of meeting the team and learning about the role that it is that I do now, said yes and joined them. And so that's where I've been for the last 2 years or so. Actually, when I was putting together this presentation, I reflected a little bit on what I had wanted at each point doing each of these things. The first one, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a marine biologist because I really like fish and I really like the water. Didn't end up doing that, but was kind of still a fun dream. When I was at university, I did a linguistics degree, was interested in writing, kind of had dreams of being a writer, which didn't come to pass, but I'm okay about that. After I graduated from university, realized I needed to make some money, and really for that first job, I was looking for financial security. So being able to make money, being able to pay my rent, having a good job. And then from that point onwards, where I felt like I had a bit of security, was more about learning about business, learning about especially the types of companies that operate in Silicon Valley, learning about how to scale businesses very quickly, understand how big companies run. And at LinkedIn, I think the thing that I focus the most on is how to grow as a leader, whether that's a leader of a business unit or a leader of people. And so reflecting on this, that the trajectory was one of kind of going from me to going to other people, which is definitely at the heart of what LinkedIn cares about, which is how to get large numbers of people to connect with one another, to build stronger relationships, and in doing that, to find opportunities. So that was just a nice thing for me to realize. By the way, as I'm going through, if you have questions on specific things, feel free to jump in, or we can wait till the end and do kind of Q&A then. I thought I would talk a little bit about things I like about my job in marketing. And there's really three main topics. One is that marketing to people and thinking about them, you have to understand other people and how they make decisions. So if you have a new product that someone is either going to buy or that you want them to use, understanding the set of decisions that they make to get to whether they want to use that and also how they discover it. The second is understanding how to get things done at a business. So how decisions are made, how money and resources are allocated. And then the third is making something from nothing. So when you have an idea of a product that you want to make, an idea of how to talk to people about it, going from that idea to having something a lot of people use. And some examples of that, which actually relate to what we'll talk about a little bit later in terms of how to build your profile and how to get noticed on LinkedIn. Oftentimes people are thinking about, what do I need to solve a problem that I have right now? How can I immediately get help with that? Or how can I find the thing that I'm looking for? And then at that point, am I willing to do what it takes to find that product and to use it, or to pay the amount if it's something that you buy? all of which are things which are important when you're thinking about finding a job. And there's a recruiter who is thinking about, like, how do I find the candidate that I need? How do I know that they have the skills that I need for the person to have this job? How do I think about, how much I'm willing to pay them? How I'll negotiate salary? On the second part, also very related to thinking about your own career or building relationships with people, is understanding how to get things done at a business. So for a recruiter or for a team which is hiring someone, they'll be thinking about who is the decision maker within this company in terms of who's hiring for this role. Is it the financial planning people who determine how much we can pay people? Is it the hiring manager who I'm talking to? Is it the recruiter? Kind of, as well as thinking about how to present yourself well and how to represent the skills that you have. There's also a little bit of thinking about and learning from the recruiter, whoever you talk to, about how hiring decisions are made, how they think about the people that they hire for those companies. And then the third one, around making something from nothing, I think that what I've learned the most is that you rarely get to the right answer straight away. And so in our work and also in my career, I think you start with a hypothesis about what will work. Sometimes it works, a lot of times it doesn't, but you test it. If it works, keep doing it and doing it more. If it doesn't, try something else. And I thought I would share just a few examples from the work experience that I have, where that's come up and where it's been important. The first one around understanding other people and how they make decisions, I thought I would share this screenshot of the My Network page on LinkedIn. So if you go to linkedin.com, if you're logged in and you click on My Network, you should see a page which is pretty similar to this one. And the goal for the people who worked at LinkedIn, when they think about LinkedIn members coming to this site, is how can we encourage people to connect with other people that they know, or people that they might know less well. And there's a few things, well, there's a lot of things on this page they do, but I highlighted a few of them. One is this box at the top, which you see says people you may know from LinkedIn. So one thing which is important is giving a context within which someone might realize how they know this person. So it's possible that this guy, Jean-Philippe, I might know him, but I might have forgotten about him. But if LinkedIn reminds me that he's a colleague of mine who works at the same company, more likely that I'll connect with him, more likely that I'll be able to remember who he is. The second bubble that I've highlighted lets me know that with Kristen, I have 13 mutual connections. And that social proof of knowing that you have people in common with someone is something that builds credibility for them. So if I just saw a photo of this person or just their name, I might not know them, it might not ring any bells, but being reminded by a company like LinkedIn that there's actually a few people who we share and who we know makes me think that, hey, maybe you have people in common, maybe it's worth us making a connection. And then the third thing that I've highlighted, which seems really obvious and simple, but actually makes a huge difference, as I'm sure many of you know, is a photo. So like, obviously a photo will remind someone if you know them, if you've seen them before. Also, it's a great example of representing how people should think about you. Like, what are you doing? Are you smiling? Do you look serious? Are you in a formal setting, in an informal setting? And so as well as in this example, reminding someone why you should connect with them, making you feel comfortable doing that, it's also a good way of that person representing who they want to be perceived as. The second thing that I talked about in terms of things that I enjoy about my job is understanding how things get done at a business. And for this one, I thought I might tell a short story about when I started working at Amazon. So I guess when I got there, I thought that most companies got things done in the same way and made decisions in the same way, which was if I wanted to get money or resources for a project, I would put together a presentation which explained why I wanted to do that, similar to this one that I'm giving today, got a bunch of people in the room, presented to them, was funny and charismatic and convincing, and then got the things that I wanted. But when I got to Amazon, it turned out that things didn't work exactly the same way. And so the first time I did that and got ready and put together a document at Amazon to explain to my boss and my boss's boss and the team around me what I wanted to do, I got into the room, everyone sat down, I started to talk, and then he stopped me and he said, stop. And I was kind of a little bit taken aback because I was ready to give my explanation of what was going on. And he said, hey, if you wanted to say that, you should have put it in the document. And I had assumed that I would be taking people through this presentation, but it turns out at Amazon, there's no presentations or very, very few presentations. And the way that things get done and the way that business decisions happen is you write a document, you print off that document and you give a copy of it to everyone in the room. And then they sit in that room silently for half an hour, reading the document, making notes, making comments. After that half an hour, people give their feedback on the document, you listen to that feedback, and then you move on. And that's the end of the meeting. So it was an experience that I'd never really had in my life before in terms of how an organization like Amazon made decisions and how they worked out whether a plan was a good plan, which didn't involve any of my presentation skills or charisma. And was just a really good example that there's lots of different ways of doing things and lots of ways that you might not realize companies make decisions and get things done. And then the final example around making something from nothing, I thought I'd share a bit of a story of my work at Uber Eats. So when we this chart on the page is a graph of the first few months of when we launched Uber Eats, so Uber's food delivery product. On the axis, on the y-axis going up on the side is kind of the number of people who were buying things or ordering food, and on the right is time. And so you see these little bumps where we launched in an individual city or launched in more cities this food delivery service. And things were kind of slowly moving upwards and we were seeing more people use the service and buy food. We were testing, emailing people, testing like paid advertising to get people to sign up for the product, but nothing was really growing it as quickly as we wanted to. And so at this point, on the right-hand side of the graph, we had tested a bunch of things and none of them had really worked. And we tested the idea of having the customers that we had referring other people to the platform. So essentially, if I was referring Elizabeth, I'd say, hey, like if you order from Uber Eats, you'll get $10 off your first order. I'll get $10 off my first order. And that was the point at which we saw everything really take off for the business. And so it actually became very quickly the major marketing channel for getting people to use the platform and propelled the business to grow to the scale that it's at today, along with many other things. And was just a good reminder that you can test things and test things and test things and feel like they don't work. And it's important to keep testing until you get to something that does work, because that can really accelerate what you're doing beyond what you might think. And the reason, as I mentioned a little bit before, that I mentioned these things is I feel like each of these translates into the way that we think about a personal brand and the way that we think about representing ourselves on LinkedIn. So oftentimes, if you are a recruiter on LinkedIn looking for a candidate, you'll be looking for people with a specific set of skills or people who work in a specific location, but you also care about credibility. And so one of the questions that recruiters often have is, hey, like Ben can put on his digital resume that he's worked at Amazon and he's worked at Google, but how do I know that's true? And how do I know the things that he's done are actually credible and can be relied upon? And so understanding how other people make decisions, not just at face value, is a really important part of thinking about your personal brand. The second thing I mentioned a little bit earlier about understanding how things get done in a business and how decisions are made, you might be the perfect candidate for a job, but if you never get in contact or never get in front of the right person who's making that decision, you might never get an opportunity to get that job. So a couple of examples are like thinking if whether there's someone at the company who you know who can refer you instead of just applying directly. You might send a message to a contact that you have on LinkedIn and ask for a referral, and that might be 100 times more effective than just submitting your resume and hoping that it gets in front of the hiring manager. And then the third one, around making something from nothing, we can actually test a lot of things on LinkedIn to see what gets us the attention that we want to. So you can connect with people, see if they look at your profile. You can publish content. So if you're interested in writing, or if you work in a specific industry and you're interested in talking about that, posting videos or posting content are great ways for you to help people understand the work that you do and have them engage with you. But the key thing is testing lots of different things and then sticking with the things that work. It's a lot of effort to write things and make videos and publish things. And if that's not going to pay off, it's a lot of work for very little return. And so testing a few different things, seeing what works, and then investing in that is a really good thing to do. And so I thought I would go to a couple examples within LinkedIn itself just to talk about some of the ways that the platform can help you and some of the things that you can do to get recognized and build your personal brand. Oh, sorry, before that, I just wanted to run through a few of the things that people use LinkedIn for, because hopefully most people have heard of LinkedIn, but you might not know all of the things that you can do on it. A lot of people use the platform for job seeking, obviously, so finding a job, applying to a job, or reaching out to people who might work at that company for referrals. It's a very popular platform for building and maintaining a professional network, connecting with people, wishing them happy birthday or congratulating them when they get promoted or move to a different company. LinkedIn also has a very big learning product called LinkedIn Learning, which it's a company that LinkedIn acquired several years ago called Lynda, which is now a core part of LinkedIn's business. If you work for a big company, your employer may subscribe to courses on LinkedIn Learning, but even if you don't, there's still a lot of great content which is available that can teach you things about skill development for coding or skills development for how to use Microsoft Excel, but also a lot of soft skills. So leadership skills, how to influence people, how to have better presence in meetings and stuff like that. Another popular thing that LinkedIn is used for is staying informed on industry news. So seeing what your friends and colleagues are posting, but LinkedIn also has an editorial team that posts news stories from different industries and having conversations about those. I wouldn't necessarily encourage this, but some people do use LinkedIn for dating. It's not an official use case for the company, but we can't stop people from finding people who they like the professional backgrounds of. So that is something that people use LinkedIn for. But the things I will focus on are finding your next job and building and maintaining your business network, which are probably the things that are most broadly applicable and useful for this group. So this is my profile again. A few things that I'll highlight for you that you might find interesting and which are also picked up by the algorithms that LinkedIn has to either promote your profile in searches or make it more relevant. One is this box on the left, which is around services that you provide. So you can enter in the things that you do or the services that you're willing to provide, and then select from a list of things that get pre-populated. A couple of things that I have are business consulting, leadership development, but you might also have writing or even jewelry making or things like that. And when you put information in there, it means that if a recruiter is searching or if someone else is searching for someone with that set of skills, you're more likely to show up. And you can see it's a little bit obscured by the red bubble, but you can also change the privacy settings there so that either anyone can see it or just the people that you're connected to can see it, or whatever you're comfortable with. The second bubble that I've highlighted is around showing recruiters that are open to work. So there was a strong demand for people to be able to be contacted by recruiters without necessarily signaling to the company that they work for that they were looking for a new job. Obviously, you can imagine that it might be a bit awkward if I was connecting with a bunch of recruiters and publicly talking about how much I wanted to change my job from LinkedIn, and one of my colleagues or my boss saw that. So this is a feature which is designed to be able to have you kind of only signal to recruiters who are searching rather than post publicly that you are looking for a job, and also what specific types of work you might be interested in. So if you click on that button, if you activate it and put in a little bit of information, that is a more subtle way of indicating that you're looking for something new. And then the other thing that I wanted to highlight on this page, which is circled off to the right, is I think it's also interesting to think about, for people who are looking at your profile, who else are they looking at? Because it also tells you kind of how you're perceived and what type of people recruiters or other people who are looking for you are looking for. So you can see at the top of my list is a woman called Betsy Jones, who's a global marketing leader. She previously worked at LinkedIn. She's worked at a bunch of other places. So that's pretty reassuring for me that the types of people who are searching for my profile are finding like other marketing leaders or other people who work in that industry. Because if it was people who worked in like fishing or cinema, it might be indicating to me that I've put kind of the wrong stuff on my profile. Likewise, you can't really see it, but the person underneath Betsy is a colleague of mine called Naman, who's a product manager at LinkedIn. So that's a good indication that I'm being found by people who are looking for either people at LinkedIn or people who are in product. Second thing I wanted to share in terms of profile relates to this idea of credibility and having people be able to believe what they read about what you've written. So this is something which is pretty easy to do, actually, but you can either endorse people for skills that they have. So any contacts that you have on LinkedIn, I could go to Elizabeth's profile, for example, and endorse her for like presenting skills. But lots of people have endorsed me for product marketing, which is what I do. And it just means that if someone is looking at my profile, or I've applied for a job, and I say that I'm good at product marketing and have experience doing it, they can also see that there's like 36 people who've endorsed me for this. So there's a good chance that I'm pretty good at this, as well as me saying that I am. You can, if you want to, also ask people to write like written endorsements for you, which doesn't take too long to do. And so if you are applying for a new job and it was a management role where you were managing a team, maybe you'd ask a former colleague to say, hey, could you write a paragraph about my skills as a manager? And that means that when a recruiter goes to your profile, they'll see that you've been endorsed as being a good people manager, but they'll also see a qualitative statement that someone has written, which is really powerful. Like, it's very powerful to hear something that someone else has written about you and chosen to publish on your profile about why you're good at the thing that you're doing. So that's definitely something that I'd encourage people to take a look at, because it's very powerful in terms of building credibility for what you do. The third thing that I wanted to talk about is, I don't know how many folks have seen this page, but there is actually a lot of data that you can get on how visible your profile is and the types of people who've been looking at it. On the LinkedIn home screen, there is a little button off to the left, which says something like people who viewed your profile or profile views this week. And if you click on that, you'll come here. And it's essentially a chart over time, which shows you how many people have viewed your profile, how many people have been searching for you. And the thing which I think is interesting about this one for me is the area which is circled in red. At the beginning of the year, I started publishing some content, essentially book reviews. I still really enjoy reading. I enjoy writing about reading. And so that bump that you see there is the day when I posted the first book review. So if you're thinking about how to test whether the types of things that you're publishing or sharing are important to people or resonating with people, this is a really good way of seeing whether it's working. If I'd posted that, hadn't really seen any change, I'd say, hey, maybe this isn't interesting to people, or maybe this isn't the kind of stuff that is going to get people to engage with me more. On the bottom left, you can see the number of people who are recruiters who've been looking at your profile, which if you're looking for a job, that's a good indication of whether you're being found by people who are looking for you. And then the other thing that I highlighted at the bottom of here on the right-hand side, it's pretty interesting to be able to see how the people who've been looking at your profile have found you. So similar to what I was saying before about publishing content, I can see that this person, David Palm, who I don't know, I never met the guy, never heard of him, found me through something that I posted on the LinkedIn homepage. So probably what happened is I posted something, one of my friends or colleagues shared that again, and then this man, David, found it, and that's how he came to look at my profile. So this page I'd really recommend if you're looking for information on how people find you and how to increase the exposure that you get on the platform. And then the last thing that I wanted to share is, I don't know how many people within this group have used LinkedIn Premium or signed up for LinkedIn Premium. It's a paid service that if you are job seeking or if you want to get information about other companies, you can pay LinkedIn for, either a company as an individual. Oftentimes, a lot of people, if they're job seeking, will sign up for several months while they go through their job seeking process and then kind of unsubscribe. But it does give you a lot of really good insights around jobs that you are applying for. So this is a job that came up as recommended to me on LinkedIn. It's a digital marketing job at Facebook. And because I have a LinkedIn Premium profile, it shows me a lot of information about the types of skills that would be required, the types of people who are applying for this job, and also an assessment of whether LinkedIn feels that I would be qualified for this job. So you can see on the left-hand side that it thinks that I'd be in the top 25% of people who are applying for this job. It thinks that I have 6 out of 10 of the top skills required. I would argue that I probably have more than that, but that's what LinkedIn thinks. And then at the bottom left, it shows you the other types of people who've applied for this job. So you can see that people at a director level have applied, people at a manager level. And all of this, I think, helps give you an idea of, if you're going to put a lot of effort into applying for a job and you're going to like redo your resume and try and talk to people, this kind of gives you a good idea of whether you have the right qualifications and whether you're likely to be successful, which can save you a ton of time. Those are the main things that I wanted to highlight. I just wanted to summarize. I think there's a few things which are really important in terms of thinking about building your digital brand and standing out more. which relate to the three topics that I've been talking about through the presentation. One is to think really deeply about what the people who find your profile are looking for. Are they looking for people with skills? Are they looking for people who post really interesting content? Are they looking for people who have a lot of endorsements? Because those can really help to build credibility. The second is that you can make a lot of progress by using the tools that LinkedIn has to find who's interested in you today and the skills that you need for particular positions. So those are the things that I was just talking about in terms of if you posted an article and you see like a big jump in people who are looking at your profile, there's a good chance that you've done something which has been effective in getting people's attention. And there's also a lot of information in LinkedIn's jobs platform on the types of skills that would be required for a job, which you can match against the skills that you think that you have. And then the third thing, again, is I just encourage everyone to experiment with different ways, either to build your brand or to post things. You know, the profile photo that we have says a lot about who we are, as well as what we look like. It also can give an indication to like the environment that you work in, the type of work that you do, a lot of things about yourself. The different words, the keywords that you use on your profile to describe the work that you do and why you've worked are pretty important in terms of how the platform surfaces the work that you do for people who are searching. So you can experiment with those. And also, if you have the time and energy and inclination, experiment with posting your own content, things that you've written, or even just links to interesting articles and see what stands out to people. And those are three really good ways to get started as you think about building a better profile on the platform. That is about everything that I want to talk about today. Hope it's been interesting and useful, and I'm more than happy to answer some questions that people have that came up during the presentation.
Alrighty.